Okay, I think in the interest of time, we're going to get started again. So hopefully everybody has found their food and getting seated and sorted out accordingly. Pretty fun morning so far. Thanks again for inviting me here. It's good to be here. So I'll just kick it in with some notes, and we'll just we'll start the afternoon. Sustainability in water, in general, for anyone outside these doors is a hard sell, as we'll see in this very short clip.
Infrastructure. It's our roads, bridges, dams, levees, airports, power grids, basically anything that can be destroyed in an action movie.
Get out of there! Damn it!
Holy If an alien species judged humanity by our most popular movies, they'd think we were furious with asphalt all the time. The problem is, though, when our infrastructure is not being destroyed by robots and/or saved by Bruce Willis, we tend to find it a bit boring.
As you know, infrastructure is not a sexy or glamorous topic.
As much as I'd like to think otherwise, infrastructure is not sexy.
Infrastructure is not very sexy.
Yes, infrastructure, like those men we just heard from, is important but not sexy.
Well, all right. Very funny. That's a good way to start off this afternoon. I like to think water is pretty sexy. I think we all kind of agree. So we're definitely at Hurley trying to make water more and more sexy to the next generation as well. So we're trying. Water is one of those beige topics. Unless we are in a drought, nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to talk about it. When it rains like today, forget about it. It's like, problem solved, right? It's raining. We got it all. We're good. But you and I know that it's a little bit more to that. And I want to roll a quick video to introduce one of our nonprofit partners that helps to do that and really try to educate next generation of people to think a little bit differently. So we'll play that video.
The Ecology Center is an eco-education center. We're located in San Juan Capistrano, and our work is about empowering everyone every day around sustainability. Ultimately, we believe that individuals are the conduits for a healthy environment. Our platform is about simple sustainability that represents our daily lives. Sustainability is giving more than you take. And so that's the general platform at the Ecology Center, is creating a culture that gives more than it takes. The Ecology Center works to build sustainability within 3 different communities: our household, our workplace, and our schools. We've developed specific programs that activate sustainability differently for each of these environments. Our household sustainability program is about putting tools in people's hands, building skills-based education that helps retrofit their households to be sustainability centers. Our intention through our household-oriented programming is that individuals create change at their household level, meaning that they start retrofitting their house, they start making savings in their daily decision-making, but ultimately that their houses throughout our environment are ecologically oriented. Where we come in and support schools is in that intersection of need, science-based education, hands-on learning, skills-oriented focus. It's getting kids out in the garden, learning how to work with their hands, learning about science and inquiry, and ultimately learning about how simple things like growing food create a healthy community. Children are our future leaders, and if we can inspire children to not only influence their families, but also influence how we move forward as a culture, that's something that is worth investing in, and we spend a lot of energy on that. Our corporate partners allow us to expand our impact in a couple different areas. One, we work on what we call catalytic change within our corporate campuses. We work to train up company-wide individuals to understand sustainability at a very practical level so that those many hundreds of employees start becoming conduits for change. At the Ecology Center, we work collaboratively with different brands to create shared impact and messaging in different categories. We work with SDG&E around energy messaging to build conservation into our daily lives. While the Ecology Center is a regional hub for sustainability, we have a national following around everyday solutions. And this is how we use some of our partnerships to amplify the impact in messaging. Integrating sustainability today and tomorrow isn't complex. It's actually quite easy and it's super fun. It engages the entire community. So whether it's building new skills at home, taking them to school or the workplace, please participate and join us. Each of us can create a healthy home, a healthy workplace, and a healthy school. We hope we've inspired you. Please join us, visit our website, and be part of the solution.
A little plug for my friends at the Ecology Center. They do a good job educating kids. Thank you. Definitely invite anyone in this room to come on down. Bring your kids, bring your family, and they have a lot of really cool, great things, including this water path thing, where you actually choose what you're gonna buy based on its water footprint. It's a really amazing, sort of fun, interactive experience. And Hurley, we support their water effort, and they do a great job. So check them out when you can. The Ecology Center in San Juan. Okay, so enough of the plugs, right? So just before lunch, we heard about Masdar, the city of the future. I love saying that, the city of the future, so good. It was remarkable how Masdar is drastically changing the way to approach urban planning and new community development projects. But what if you can't start from scratch, out in the middle of the desert? Are the standards of Masdar too high to achieve when trying to apply them to a city that already has exiting and old infrastructure? Cities such as LA and San Diego that were first established back in the 1700s. Or is a city like Mendota that suffers from unemployment averaging 20% with a median household income of $23,705, but has a vast farmland. The word sustainability gets thrown around very loosely these days. Simply put, sustainability. I'm not a big fan of the word sustainability, but I think it sort of still works. But I love its message, I love the meaning, but I think there's a better word that I don't stumble over. Sustainable means able to be used without being completely used up or destroyed, involving methods that do not completely use up or destroy natural resources, and able to last or continue for a long time. I like what Evan said in the video that sustainability is giving more than you take. That's me. Motivations for sustainability initiatives and contradictory scientific data have been heated, debated, and put into the question. How far should sustainability be taken? And for many of you who are policymakers, planners, developers, and elected officials, you know that making something sustainable usually comes with a hefty price tag. I know that in my business too. But sometimes that price tag makes sense or has a greater value than to just keep going on business as usual. Whether you directly associate sustainability with weather patterns or not, I think we can all agree that cities need to have enough water without completely depleting or destroying our water source. But how far can we push it or put pressure on a water source? Do we really need as much as we think we do? What do we really need to have to sustain our communities? What are our wants and our most absolute haves? Will we see a return on investment, or does it suffice if the only ROI is that we got to continue operating without interruptions? What costs are consumers willing to pay for water sustainability projects? What are they willing to pay for those water sustainability projects? Our session was originally titled Tale of Three Cities, but one city could not join us today, so we're sticking with the classic Tale of Two Cities. Today we are going to hear from two men who are in the thick of trying to determine what sustainability looks like for their communities. What does San Diego and Mendota cities of the future look like? Sounds pretty cool, right? It is truly a tale of two different cities. One is a hub of billions of dollars worth of agricultural production in California. The other is the 8th largest city in the United States. One common thread is that they are all making water reliability a top priority. In this session, we will examine these cities' pressing problems and hear about the initiatives they plan to set into motion to achieve water reliability and economic stability. That's a lot to say. So I'm going to invite Stephen back up to the stage to make some introductions. Stephen?
One of the co-chairs with Jeff Thomas of this great 8th Annual Water Summit. I was asked to make a few more quick introductions, and I will digress with those for a moment. And first, how many Water District elected officials do we have in the room? I want to say thank you for all being here. If you want to put your hand up if you're elected and you run for office and you're on the Water District, appreciate that. And then it's always our pleasure to bring in non-water officials. I know that we had County Supervisor Andrew Doe was here for a while and he needed to leave. But I think in the room we also have council members from Westminster, Diane Carney and Margie Rice here in the back. And then we have council member Alan Bernstein from Tustin, and Alan is right over here. And then thank you. And then Councilwoman Barbara Del Glaze from Huntington Beach. Where is Barbara at? Wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much for coming. Just as another quick digression before we introduce the speakers, Orange County Water District, for those that are not in the water industry, our job is to generally provide the groundwater for Orange County. It's what we do every day, day in, day out, is to manage the groundwater and always find ways to get more groundwater. We operate the largest water recycling plant of its kind in the world. It's the most water recycling in any county in California, practically in the state or in the nation. We work on doing injection into the groundwater. We work on diverting water and diverting from the Santa Ana River to put all that into our aquifers. We have many programs going on. We have many things that we're studying, and we want to expand our water recycling. Our sister agency, the Municipal Water District of Orange County, that Jeff Thomas is with, they are the agent of the Metropolitan Water District, and they provide all of the water through them to the various retail agencies. That water originates from the Delta and from the Colorado River for that two mix. Our water is about 75% of your water. The other 25% comes through MoDOC, or the Municipal Water District of Orange County. As we had an earlier session on desalination, our board voted last night to go forward with a term sheet on desalination. We've looked at the environmental issues, and there's really a de minimis environmental issue from the intake valve that brings the water in. I can assure you that Flipper and Spudge Bob are safe. They're not going to be any problem. And then on the salt water, the brine that goes out, there are ways to make that safe as well for the marine life. What it really comes down to is the economics, and so what we want to do is work to find more money from the water bond. And so I've asked all of you that when you may hear from us in the future from this event, we need to have Sacramento allocate more water bond dollars. There's water supply dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars are going to be spent. We'd like to have them spent here in Orange County. It's a lot of our tax dollars, and we think we should bring them back here. So we'll be engaging on a program to do that. And we think that the desalination plan with Poseidon is a very viable way to go, and we are pursuing doing that and trying to get the cost of the water down. With all that said, I now want to introduce the speakers, and first we'll start with Mayor Silva, and I want to welcome back Mayor Silva. I believe he was with us about 4 or 5 years ago, and Mayor, could you come up now as I introduce you? Thank you. He's served in various capacities in city government for the past 26 years and was a key figure in the turnaround of the city. As many of you may have read that, Mendota had suffered high unemployment as a result of the drought and the low water supply coming from the Delta. However, he was incremental, he was incremental. He played a very important role in garnering $115 million for a federal correctional facility in Mendota, which I'm sure helped with the employment, with the economy there, and part of the sustainability. And Mendota is also known as in agriculture as the cantaloupe and lettuce capital of the world. So I want to thank the mayor for coming, and we'll hear more from you as we go forward. Thank you, appreciate it. Have a seat. Again, it's my next pleasure to introduce my good friend David Graham, who's come up from San Diego to speak. David has served under 3 mayors in San Diego, and you wouldn't probably recognize that from how young he is. David currently is he's the Deputy Chief Operating Officer, and that is a fancy name for the mayor. He's the Deputy Mayor of San Diego under Kevin Faulkner. The previous other 2 mayors was Susan Golding and Jerry Sanders. David's main push, besides being in charge of, say, the planning department, economic development department, and various city departments as the deputy mayor, his new push is going to be on a sustainability program that he'll be sharing with us. This is a program that Mayor Faulkner has launched, and David is the person at the front who's doing that. So, David, if you could please come up. Oh, you're right there. Thank you. Good to see you. And with that, I'll turn it back over. And thank you, and hopefully we'll enjoy the speakers.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. So thanks for that great introduction there, Stephen. Let's begin with Mayor Silva.
Thank you, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Orange County Water folks to invite me once again back again. I was here a couple of years ago, and I really had a big thrill of coming over here. I also belong to Latino Water Coalition. It's an organization composed of elected officials, farmers, farm workers, businessmen, and we've been involved in the water issue in California over like 10 years. So very familiar with what's going on right now in water. And basically today I am going to cover the issue of what's going on in my community. Because, it's a story that I've been sending over and over again, and I've gotten a lot of response of trying to get that story out. I just got back from Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago, and we did cover that also. We went with the Council of Governments out of Fresno County, and we met with many elected officials, of course, the two senators, Mrs. Boxer and Mrs. Feinstein. And out of that meeting, Mrs. Feinstein, the next couple of days, she brought in some new folks to cover the valley on the water issues, the problems that persist out there. But mainly, I wanted to cover, first of all, I know many of you folks don't even know where Mendota is, okay? And I understand that. It's a small, thank you. It's a small community. It's in western Fresno County. We're about 40 miles west. And it's a community of, it's ag-related. As a lot of cities in the valley, ag-related. The Central Valley is so rich that many things grow, and most of the things out there are the biggest percentage of jobs come from the ag. So as we all know, we're going to a drought situation. I call it two things: man-made drought and also Mother Nature. But and that's a big controversy. But we've been involved in the fight. Why? Because my community, most of the jobs are ag-related. And when we have in our backyards, I call it our backyard because Weston's Water District is in my backyard. Weston Water District is a big water district in Central Valley. And when they got zero water allocation, well, that was a big blow. That was an ugly blow. And what did it mean to us? Well, first of all, the farming industry really suffered. I mean, when you got zero water allocation, I felt sorry for my farmer friends because they went through some hard times. And also, as it goes down the economic ladder, the farm works itself. When all of a sudden there's not work out there, well, they suffer. But also, what happens to cities? Well, of course, when there's no movement of anything, we all suffer. The growth of a city is all of a sudden stymied because that economic dollar is not out there. So they suffer. And this is a typical story of the valley because, in the Central Valley, most of the cities are composed of ag-related work. So we all been suffering. But also the businessmen, and it trickles all the way down to the city of Fresno. I used to be in the grocery business over 40 years, and people would tell me from the business community, what's going on? Mayor, why is there no movement in my product? Well, first of all, you have to understand that economic dollar, when it's derived from the farming industry, and these poor farmers are not able to grow anything, well, nobody's working, so there's nothing out there. So it's a major problem to a lot of folks in the Central Valley. But you know what? Our city, we realized that roughly about 6-7 years ago. We're trying to diversify. We're doing a lot of things differently. Working with a lot of folks with the solar energy folks, and also other folks that we brought in a big federal prison. That's been an impact to our community. But The biggest struggles that I see is that if we don't fix this water problem in the valley or the whole state of California, we're all going to suffer. You folks here in Southern California, you get a majority of water also from up north, and you're going to be suffering. And one of the things that I've been saying over and over and over is that we need to work together. I'm talking about the water folks, I'm talking about municipalities, and I'm also talking about the environmental folks. Because what I've been seeing is it's a constant battle. Everybody's tugging their direction. Everybody's territorial. Everybody wants their share. But if we don't have a comprehensive water plan to fix everybody's needs, we're not going to get nowhere. We're just going to suffer, and we're going to continue suffering. That is the reason that we need to work together. And that is my message today. If we don't fix this problem, if we don't work together, the state of California is going to be in terrible straits. We talk about the farm interest, what's growing in our Central Valley. Believe me, you could see it. When I was involved in the grocery business, many reporters would ask me, what's going to happen when you're not growing anything out there? Well, you saw it recently. The city of Huron, not too far from Mendota, 40 miles to the west. Their lettuce production was cut so bad that you folks suffered because there was less product. Anytime there's less product, you're going to feel the pinch. I've said that over and over again. You're going to feel the pinch, and you see the prices rise. That's why we should be all concerned about having a water system, water deliveries that we can all work together. That is my message today, that we should be working together, because if we don't, everybody's going to suffer. Okay? That's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Silva. What you're saying really hits home. Certainly for us in business, we actually speak of sustainability as innovation, and we actually look at it as innovation for a better planet. And then you take it one step further, and we say innovation and sustainability is actually a competitive advantage, because we do more with less, which means we have to pay for less, which means we have a healthier margin. So I get it. Definitely feel the pinch, and if you do it right, you can do it for the right reasons. Thank you for that. So now I'd like to invite David Graham to the stage and hear a little bit about what you're saying. Thank you.
All right, well, I don't have any fancy videos like Ben did, but good old city resources allow me to at least use a PowerPoint here. I'll see if I can actually work the little clicker. So thank you very much on behalf of Mayor Kevin Faulconer for having us here. It's these sorts of convenings. Mayor Silva was mentioning collaborating, and really, if we're going to collaborate to compete as a region, as a state, as a country, it takes events like this where we're being able to share across with multiple agencies, multiple types of organizations, government, et cetera. And so it really is helpful for us to be able to participate here today and be able to be involved. So when you talk about water and water reliability, it's inextricably linked with everything that cities are doing around sustainability. And sustainability, though I kind of agree with Ben, may not be the best of words, and I stumble over it too. Sustainability is no longer an option. It is no longer a choice. It's no longer an ethical decision. It is an imperative for our cities, for our regions. And I think that when you look at, from an energy standpoint, from a climate change standpoint, from a water reliability standpoint, it is what we have to be dealing with comprehensively. And so San Diego, under Mayor Kevin Faulconer, has launched off on a climate action plan, sustainability plan. A couple of quick facts about the city: 1.3 million people, 3 million for the entire region, 8th largest in the country. We have a strong mayor form of government, so the mayor is the chief executive. And the traded economies of the military, innovation, advanced manufacturing, and tourism really drive us. And so when you think about the water needs and environmental needs of those three industries, that's 40% of our economy, and reliable water source is absolutely crucial for all of them. You think about the life sciences companies that we have in San Diego that are coming up with the cures of tomorrow, and they have a heavy reliance on water and water use. And so it's absolutely vital that we're able to, if we're going to be attracting and expanding those industries, to have a reliable source of water. The challenges that San Diego face are similar to most other places, and a few of them are a little bit unique. So with 70% of the world's population going to be in metropolitan areas by 2050, we're seeing that we're doing more people being packed into less space. San Diego itself will be growing by 200,000 people over the next 20 years. Of course, we're dealing with the issues associated with climate change. And then the city is sort of somewhat unique with both a port, airport, and downtown all right there on the bay. And so there's not much more for us to be able to grow out. We have to do more with what we have there. And of course, like many other cities in California, 85% of our water is imported. An additional fact, though, for San Diego that makes us unique is we're at the very end of the pipeline. So we have launched off and begun to focus on how we can actually create new sources of water for San Diego. We don't have some of the groundwater resources that others have. We have some ability for desal, but really we have to launch off on I think, a unique approach. Later this year, we will be approving a climate action plan that focuses on energy and water efficient buildings, clean and renewable energy, and I think everybody recognizes the link between reliable and inexpensive renewable energy and water, obviously, especially if you're talking about things like desalination, if you're talking about things like recycled water. Having that reliability and at a cost-effective rate is absolutely necessary. Of course, bicycling, walking, transit, and land use is included, zero waste program, and climate resiliency. Really a comprehensive program around climate. We plan on exceeding state and federal mandates by 2035, cutting the city's energy usage itself by a quarter, increasing our zero-emission vehicles, zero waste with 90% diversion and 90% GHG capture, and then cutting our per capita water use by at least 9 gallons citywide. But even with those things in the larger climate perspective, water and conservation have been a drumbeat for San Diegans. We've cut our water usage by 17% since 2007, and that is less than we were using in the 1990s, despite having grown by over 250,000 people. Of course, there's the Carlsbad desalination plant that many of you are very familiar with. And we're, through the drought response and the governor's executive order, our mandate is to cut 16% citywide, as well as the city itself. And we're going to hit those targets later this summer. Another unique thing, though, for San Diego is we have the last in the nation, and this is somewhat embarrassing to say, advanced primary treated outfall. So our wastewater still goes out into the ocean, and it's only advanced primary treated. The federal government, under the Clean Water Act, requires secondary treatment, and the upgrades to that plant alone would cost $2.1 billion to the city of San Diego with no additional capacity or new water source. And so we're staring down the barrel at a very big bill, in addition to all the other infrastructure bills that I know many cities are wrestling with right now. And so we have launched on a path to create more reliable water, stable water source, and move further towards water independence for the city and the region. And that is our Pure Water program. Those of you familiar with Orange County, and thank you very much to our friends like Steve, who have really, over many years, helped inform San Diego's approach. We may be getting the water back to the customers a little bit of a different way than the injection wells. But in 2009, we launched off with a demonstration project of 1 million gallons per day demo, and it has been absolutely successful. Exceptional water quality. From an energy standpoint, it is going to end up being comparable when you're talking about a per acre foot price using microfiltration, ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, advanced oxidation, UV light, and hydrogen peroxide. All things that if you asked me to technically explain all of that, I would just absolutely fail. All I know is the water that comes out the other side is at a quality level that is almost incomparable. So how does it work? So of course, wastewater goes to our treatment facilities, and then we do have a recycled water program right now, but the infrastructure for Purple Pipe citywide is not there. It is used in some of our city facilities. But what if, and I think you guys know the answer to the rhetorical what if, that could be turned into potable water, drinking water for everyone. And that's exactly what we're doing with our Pure Water program. It's a $3.5 billion program that will treat that water. So some recycle will still be deployed, but we'll treat that water to drinking water standards, put that into our San Vicente reservoir, and then pump that back out and deliver it to customers going through our drinking water filtration process. You know, in Orange County, they use injection wells. For us, pumping it to San Vicente is the way that we'll be able to achieve that. Also the Otay Reservoir. Now, with potential changes in regulations, we would love to move to direct potable reuse. So we're not having to deal with the expense and energy costs of pumping it to a lake and then repumping it out. Of course, that will take some changes in legislation, but I think that as a whole, most of us who deal with these issues understand that if we could go there, it really just makes recycled water that much more attractive. So by 2023, our North City plant will be up and running, and we'll be delivering 15 million gallons of drinking water daily to residents in the city. And then by 2035, 84 million gallons daily, using both a new plant down right in the middle of downtown by the airport, and then also the South Bay plant as well. We project that given the rising cost of water, that overall, even with the investment, we'll save approximately $250 million. And so when you're talking about an upfront investment by the city, which obviously will be borne by the ratepayers, we think about water bond dollars, those sorts of things. Over the long term, we really see it as a way of stabilizing water prices as we're able to create new sources of water and reduce our dependence on imported water. Fully told, this will be about a third of the city's water use by the time it's fully implemented. So, you know, we do everything that we can in the short term on conservation. We have larger goals and plans around tying together sustainability, climate action, resiliency, and water is just a fundamental part of that. And if we're to have economies that are dynamic, those that we can continue to attract the businesses and talent that we want and need in this region to be successful, it really takes a significant approach, obviously. I mean, $3.5 billion, that's obviously not very cheap. But in the long term, we see it both from a ratepayer perspective, from the perspective of sustainability, creating new sources of water, reducing our use of imported water. This does make sense. And at the end of the day, what the mayor has tasked me and my team with is making sustainability make sense for business, because we really do believe that sustainability can be good for business. And in San Diego, we're proving that case.
So I think we'll do a couple of questions, and then we'll turn it over to the audience as well. Bear with me on a little preamble before that. So like San Diego, Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti recently unveiled a sweeping city sustainability plan in April that seeks to reduce the amount of imported water used by Angelenos, improve air quality levels, and reduce greenhouse emissions over the next 2 decades. The 105-page Sustainability City Plan, with LA Plan, I see what they did there, that's very clever, sets out dozens of major environmental yardsticks for Los Angeles to reach by 2025 and 2035. One lofty goal is to source 50% of water locally by December 2035. The percentage of water supply sourced locally is currently 15.1%. Another goal is to reduce LADWP purchases of imported water by 50% by 2025. It currently takes 441,871 acre-feet annually from MET. Its total goal is 223,558 acre-feet goal by December 2025. Now, David, besides lots of money, David, what is it going to take for voters and customers in LA and San Diego to get on board and help you meet these targets? Are they achievable targets or too far reaching? And by the way, how much money are we talking about here?
Sure. So our friend from Los Angeles isn't here, unfortunately, so he can't get into the details of what LA is doing. I think the fundamental question there is, how do you actually get ratepayers to buy into this? And having worked for a number of elected officials, how do you get elected officials to be comfortable with the fact that for these investments, rates are going to have to go up? And I think that's where it comes down to wrapping it into the total package of what is occurring in those long-term plans. I mean, ratepayers hate seeing those rates go up, and politicians are afraid of rates going up. But when you lay out the business case for why it makes sense over the long term, if you talk about significant investments like our Pure Water program, like I said, $3.5 billion is a very, very scary number. But when you start to talk about how it creates a new water supply, how it will support rate stabilization, how it is taking, something that right now is just discarded and thrown into the ocean and creating a renewable source that'll be there for their children and grandchildren and a more stable city and economy, I think that as you do that and you move away from the one-offs, the public will get it, and I think we're seeing politicians get it as well. I mean, you could argue that not too long ago, toilet to tap in San Diego was an absolute dead end. And we were moving towards trying to do that maybe a decade ago, and it essentially got killed. Well, things change. And now, this far in the future, people are much more comfortable with that. And I think that you'll continue to see that as folks like Orange County and their recycled water program, San Diego, Fairfax, Virginia, I think Denver as well, as more cities are doing that, I think there'll be a critical mass that will help us deliver that message to the public.
That's great. Go Chargers.
Go Chargers. Now, I'm not so optimistic about that.
Hope. I have hope. So Mayor Silva, you have been such an optimistic force in helping your community overcome adversity. Listening to the Masdar presentation and what Los Angeles and San Diego have in store, your wheels were probably spinning on what you could do back when you get back to Mendota. As you mentioned, about 600 acres of dry, vacant farmland were recently used to create a solar farm nearby. Solar farm is projected to bring more than 400 jobs. Latest labor force data shows that the city of Mendota currently has 1,200 people who are out of work. So 410 jobs coming to town seems pretty great, and people are probably pretty excited about that. So what is now being replaced to house green technology. Is this a drastic change? If unemployment wasn't so high, would you still make the decision to have a solar farm? If you had the chance, would you do more of these types of projects? Or maybe you can elaborate on that current situation.
Absolutely. I hate to tell you this, but 2 nights ago, they had another open house session of bringing additional solar energy plant in our vicinity. There's like 4 right now in our vicinity, less than 15 miles. And because there's land available, because there's land retirement out there, there's water district out there saying, you know what, utilize the land somehow. Because one of the biggest problems that we have right now, when you put land out of retirement, you cause a problem with air pollution. Remember that out there when rich, fertile land and it's just sitting out there, well, you know what happens when the winds come? It causes more air pollution. So a lot of our folks in the valley are now saying, there's plenty of sun out there in San Joaquin Valley. Let's invite these industries. They're great. They're good for employment. They're good for business. And I want to continue to endorse plans like that in the valley. And so as our Board of Supervisors in Fresno County. They've done a lot of pushing. They've done a lot of tugging, saying, we'll take these industries anytime, because believe me, it occupies areas where there's nothing being grown because of some major water problems or some salt problems. But that kind of energies we focus on, we'll push more. We need to diversify more, but we still endorse agricultural out there, and agriculture is going to live as long as it can. But the biggest major problem right now is water availability. But no, without a doubt, we're pushing for more industry out there.
So to both, at times, more often than not, it seems like we are still, all of us, working in silos, every man or woman for themselves. As the drought worsens, are you seeing more of that survival mode action, or are you seeing and working more collaboratively with other agencies and communities? Are we all climbing over one another to get there, or can you talk a little bit about that process or how that's going or not going?
Sure. So County Water Authority in San Diego is approximately 24 agencies. And just yesterday, in collaboration with them, there was a series of actions that the Water Authority recommended in response to the governor's executive order. and the cuts. And I think that it's appropriate to call it really a survival mentality because it's actually, I think, driving each of the agencies closer and closer together in being able to collaborate on how we're going to meet those goals. I mean, population growth is not going to stop. It's going to continue, and we have to take those lessons learned in jurisdictions. I referenced learning from Orange County as to how to deal with a recycled water program and the best ways to do that, best practices. So I think that really the imperative that's in front of us and the cliff is driving us to all work more collaboratively with each other because it's the only way we're going to be competitive.
In my opening speech, I said working together because that's the only way the state of California is going to survive. I've been invited to many different water conferences around the state, and in the early days, a couple of years back, it's territorial. You go up north, and they think that their water in north of the Delta it's their water. And come down south, and you guys need additional water, and of course, that's the plan. But Central Valley is left out because we have less political clout. But one of the things that I see is that I said it before, if we don't work together to have a comprehensive water plan, instead of wasting water that's going out in the ocean, and we worry more about endangered species such as the Delta smelt, which contributes nothing to society, and compared to people in the valley where we grow food and fiber that feeds the world, it's a no-brainer. I've had interviews with people from Europe that come to the valley because they hear about it all the time and saying, why can't you guys make decisions that's good for humanity? I mean, why worry about a small fish that it's a no-brainer? And I said, well, we're in America. And sometimes, we think a little bit different. But that's where our concentration should be, and that's and we're talking to the governor. We're constantly sending. We've gotten together in the last couple of days about 80 public officials talk to the governor to make these to think right now in the short term of what water there is up north to make it available for cities or the ag to survive. We talk about the long goals, the long years from now. We can't concentrate on that. We need to concentrate of right now to take care of these major problems that's happening right now. And that's what we should be focused on. And I think sometimes the governor has some folks behind him that, they're just not listening to the folks. They're not listening to the people. So I get disgusted.
No farm, no food, right? So while I have everybody to the idea about toilet to tap, I want to make a video from bowl to brew, where we take that tap and we make beer. And so, anybody wants to take me up on that? That's a PR campaign, and we'll enjoy the fruits of our labor.
That would be the San Diego way right there.
Right
so
there.
Come on down.
That's great. So I think we'd like to turn it over to a couple of questions from the audience. We have some time, so don't all jump up at once, but let's ask some questions.
So the question is, what turned around San Diego from toilet to tap, where at one point I think it was something like 65% of people, if not higher, against to today? There's a couple of factors, and in fact, as I'm thinking about it, it was even more. It was probably like 15 or so years ago. The factors really came down to there was a lot of fear around what was in your water. So we had fluoridation issues. There were concerns around that. I don't know how many people really remember that has been a big issue in the water supply of whether or not to fluoridate. And so when it came to the toilet to tap, on the heels of that, folks didn't trust the science. They didn't trust the technology. They didn't trust that it could work and that it would be safe. And I think that with the multiple droughts that we've had, with people having to conserve, with people having to spend more time paying attention to their water consumption, their water use, they at the same time have become more familiar with some of the solutions that are out there. And I think at the end of the day, the dire sort of predictions of what will happen to the city without new sources of water has led them both from a rate standpoint and also from a science standpoint to begin to accept these sorts of technologies.
One more question if you have time.
Sure.
One of the things that hasn't been discussed a great deal today, while many others have, is the absolute waste of water. And it's going to be up to municipalities, I believe, to provide some enforcement for people who do continually waste water over and over. And I know that the governor's office and what they've talked about in violations and other things like that. But really, there has to be some focus plan down the road to say you just have to have some enforcement capability or people who continue to not get the message. Obviously, information, education, all of that is extremely important. But the fact that after that campaign, after those number of years, what about people who continually and not, we have to get rid of waste first and then see where that balance of water to take other action is. So what are your recommendations from that coming from a municipal area?
Well, let me, what I see and trying to understand, because, there's 1 week we hear from the governor's folks that do this, and then the following week do that. And what I hear from other municipalities, their interpretation is a lot, they're lost. They're enforcing various rules, and then they're bending them here and there, and it's been very confusing. No, I really believe that, we got to start thinking about conservation more, and really believe that's the only way to be. We all see certain streets, and we see certain areas that, that wasted water. We can't work that way anymore. We don't know how long droughts are going to be, but at the same time, we haven't put any dams. We haven't put in these areas where we can conserve, hold back water. And there's some plans right now in various places, in the state of California. We need to put these places, put these projects in place where we can conserve some of that water for the dry years. And we're not doing that. And that was part of the issue on the water bond. We were much involved in pushing the water bond, but at the same time, there's all kinds of interpretation from the governor's office. So, it's been a big headache of trying to do various things. And like I said before, we need to work on a comprehensive plan for the whole state of California.
And I guess I would say, there's really two things there when it comes to it. Obviously, San Diego has its water cops that are out there trying to shut down, wasteful water use and those sorts of things. The city is also, of course, under this particular drought, browning out certain parts of our parks that will eventually convert to drought tolerant. So we use each one of these crises, each one of these droughts as an ability to invest more resources in reducing our overall water use. But even with the highest enforcement program coming from a city, you're not going to get, all the folks that are wasting, or even probably a significant amount of folks that are wasting. It really comes down to the education of the public and the buy-in from the public that will change, I think, those opinions. That if 1.3 million people are looking at their neighbors and making sure that they're as water conscious as possible and conserving, and then pointing out the bad actors, that's what's going to change things. At one point in this state, recycling was seen to be a waste of time and energy and money. And yet, I think almost everybody has their blue bin and their black bin, right? It's not even a thought anymore. And it's not a thought, obviously, for our kids. So the same needs to happen when it comes to water consciousness.
Okay, so before we give a round of applause to our panelists and we'd like to give some closing remarks, I'd like to thank our event planning committee for putting on another great program, and the committee's co-chairs, Directors Steve Sheldon and Jeff Thomas. Thank you to all of our sponsors who helped make this all possible, especially our presenting sponsor, the Disneyland Resorts, and our luncheon sponsor, Mesa Water District. And thank you to our wait staff at the Grand Californian, who does such a great job. Thank you for all that. One thing about housekeeping, during your check-in, you should have received a self-parking validation. If you did not, please stop by the registration desk. So in closing, today, I hope you walk away not discouraged, but with a renewed energy to keep pushing the envelope, to spark innovation, to set things in motion. liquid motion. See? This room is filled with remarkable professionals who are some of the most talented, smart, and passionate people that have the desire and will to make your communities better places to live in. We can't just sit back and leave it up to them to do it all alone. We need to get engaged. Have your voices heard. Be part of that solution. That is something near and dear to my heart. I thank you for the time today. I'm honored to be in front of you and very inspired by the speakers and panelists and all the information presented. So thank you for a wonderful luncheon, panelists, again, and the speakers from all of our sessions. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to share your keen insights. Thank you to everyone attending. Without you, we can't do this, obviously, and we hope to see you again next year. Cheers to you all. Thank you.